right, hi everyone. We have the 3D printer running in the background, so I'm hoping the audio is okay and that you can hear me. You might hear some random mechanical woos and rants and things like that happening, as well as possibly little feet stomping above upstairs, because we have our second day in a row snow day with the kiddos home. So they're loving the days off, which is fantastic. However, it's the type of snow that you can't go out and play because it's like ice shards. So yeah, mama's at home with 2 kids who are getting stir crazy, yay! But today I'm going to be finishing up this great Owlbear, which is a 3D print, and you can find the file for this 3D print on Thingiverse or Shapeways from MZ4250. He is prolific. He's got tons of great files on different monsters and characters for tabletop games, so definitely go and check him out if you haven't already. So I see that Alan is in the chat, so if you're also in the chat, make sure to say hi so I can say hi back. So basically what happened between the last live stream and today, oh hello Matt. I went in and I did the eyes. Now, I got slightly carried away. So I gave the eyes a little bit more orange to give them more of the intensity of the orange. But then I also dotted in the pupils. But then I forgot that, you know, I'm not recording anymore. And I went through and I lined the outside of the eyes as well. And again, this is being based off a Eurasian eagle owl. I know it sounds weird when you say it out loud, but I was looking at the picture and they have this great lining around their eyes, so I wanted to make sure I caught that around the eyes as well. So what I'm doing today is, now that it's had its wash, I'm going to go through and I'm going to be adding the details that happen in the throat area of the bird as well as the hind quarter area, and then I'm going to go through and add a little bit more details through this crest zone on the owlbear as well. So let's see here. We have John S. just jumped in, and @3Sparky, hello, how are you today? And let me see here. I'm going to go pop over to the owl. Oh, Shannon, hello. And Jan jumped in. So here's the picture of the owl that I'm working off of. So this is the Eurasian eagle owl. As you can see, it's a nice blend of these lighter tones and these darker tones. Really, my biggest reason for going for these guys was because of their personality. So here are a couple more photos of them, and let me fix the music on that slide area. So they just have this really great personality to them. They're fierce, they're funny, and they kind of remind me a lot of how people portray owlbears. So I was like, you know what, let's do this one. And I also love that bright orange eye that they have going on. So these are the colors that I'm using for this particular mini. I don't know why I was going to forget the word miniature. But yeah, so we're going to get started on that. And hello, Tim, for jumping in. How are you? And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do just a quick little dry brush move through here in the hind quarter area, just to bring out some of the details again. The wash does tend to mute things. That's what washes do, but they'll bring out the depth. So once I go back in with, I think we're going to use the Khaki. Gonna go in with Khaki. We're not in Boston, didn't lose my khakis. So we'll do that on here, and then I'm gonna flip over and start focusing on, like I said, the throat area, giving the face some more of that feathering effect, going in and bringing the lighter colors as well as those darker colors. So this is kind of like the finishing things up mode that we're gonna be doing in this mini. And then for the base, what I am gonna do is I'm gonna go through and I'm going to use this great effects paint from Folk Art. It's basically this moss, faux moss look, and I really love working with this. I've used this a few times on minis, and it gives it that nice mossy grass-like look without having to get into doing static grass and things like that. So this is what I'm going to be doing at the very end, and I'll show you how I do it, and then a little tip that I'll tell you about before everyone heads on their merry way. And hello, Nathan. Thank you for jumping in as well. So like I said, I'm going to start with this hind quarter area, and I'm going to use Khaki from Apple Barrel. And again, if you're new here, the view is focused more for when I start painting, not for on the table. Pretty much the table is going to be paints and that type of thing. And Vincent has joined us again. Hello, Vincent. Good to have you back here with us again. And what else? Oh, if you are a fan of the Forge of Fury, tomorrow night, don't forget we are off because it's Valentine's Day. So make sure that you stop back in next week when we pick back up with our regular schedule. Jake is thinking about doing some stuff. So if that's the case, do make sure to go over to his Twitch channel. I think he was thinking about live streaming some crafts, which is always fun to watch. So if you want to join Jake tomorrow night, check him out on his Twitch channel, simply because, you know, it's Valentine's Day. People have plans, all that good stuff. Myself, we'll be doing more fun stuff on Friday because the kids will have off and the hubs has off and all that good stuff. I've also had to rework the audio a little bit because of the printer being on. So my microphone is on my table. If you hear any thumps and bangs, That's because I've had to move the microphone closer to me so you can actually hear me. Let's see here. So John, you just started your Nozzles Owlbear Monday. Oh, very cool. That sounds very nice. What I miss, Alan? Did you go away for a little bit? I don't know what you missed. All right, so let me go in here, and again, this is Khaki, and the bird itself, they have a lighter hindquarter area, so I don't want this to be like a big brown grizzly bear type of look. I do want to lighten this up a little bit, but there are those fun textures dancing around, as you can see now, so I want to bring that back out. So that's why I'm going in with Khaki, but what I'm doing here is I'm also avoiding this little area right here as best I can, because I do want to give that some depth there. So I'm just going to move it around the hip a little bit so you get that depth going through here. Oh, hello. Let's see. We have more people jumping in. So Achille jumped in and Christian jumped in. And Matt is asking, how did I do with my game last? It went really well. It was so much fun. The players were fantastic. Actually, if you want to see or be able to watch the game, Scraticus did load it onto his YouTube channel, so it's up there. It's called Welcome to BB's Place. You can also, I think you can still catch it on their Twitch channel as well for Scraticus Academy, but it was so much fun. It was just, the players were great. The players took it in a completely different direction. Well, it's not even completely different direction because it's more of a sandbox game. So they took a direction I hadn't anticipated, let's put it that way, in terms of how they were interpreting a certain NPC. So it was fun kind of playing around with that because they had it in their minds that her name's Mickey, the NPC is Mickey. She's the bartender at the speakeasy. And they had it in their heads that Mickey must have been sort of like a double agent type. She's not at all. So I played around with this paranoia, I guess, that started to develop and ended up being a lot of fun. They fought the keg mimic, which was cool, and then they ended up encountering another figure who was really the bad guy, essentially, for that round of the game. So it was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was good to get that going and do a live stream where I was DM, and I will be doing another session March 23rd on Scraticus. That's going to be, I want to say, like at 10 o'clock at night. I'll be there again as DM, and then I was speaking with Scrat, and probably once the insanity of my summer schedule ending, then I will pick up with them and quite possibly be DMing a full season stream, so we shall see. Cool stuff though. It's a lot of fun, and it's honestly, it's a great place to play both as a DM and as a player. Jake, oh that's right, Jake the Owlbear from State Farm because of the khaki. Oh, I forgot about that. How could I forget, Jake? How could I forget? But yeah, okay, so now I have the hindquarters back to that lighter tone like I wanted, and you can see those details a little bit better. So I'm gonna just dance it a little bit because I want to keep the end of the wings darker. So I'm gonna play with the khaki. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna play with this khaki going up the arms where the wings are. This is gonna be funny if I start talking like a Bostonian because of the khaki. But that's essentially how I want his hindquarters to look. A little pat on the butt. And now I'm going to focus mostly on the upper portion of the body, especially in this face and the throat area, because I want to get that feathery look. So that's the plan. And let's see here. Do I play Frostgrave? Frostgrave is on my list of games I want to play but have not yet had a chance to. So I would love to. The opportunity just hasn't arisen yet, is really what it boils down to. I've played a few other different games, but Frostgrave is not one of them. Let's see. Sarah, oh, hello. I'm glad. And Alan. Oh, we have Alan and we have Alan. That's how I'm going to be saying your names now. You do realize that. Hello! Thank you for jumping in too. All right, so I think what I'm going to do here is, let me go back to that photo. This is where I really do toggle back and forth to my reference photo. And like I said before, I'm trying to make a point of showing when I look at the photo more often for those people who are asking how I use the photos to paint what's going on. All right, so basically what I'm going to focus on is that throat area where you see that streaky between the blacks and the whites and the creams. So I'm going to go in first with a finer tip brush, and I'm going to put in the creamy tones first, then go in with the whites, and then go in with Pavement. I don't want to do pure black, but I'm going to go back in with Pavement, and I'm going to start creating that throated look that's on this lovely owl, and then I'm going to focus on the face and the wings. So starting here, what I'm going to use first is It's vanilla ice cream. And this is the fun thing about Apple Barrel. They have these food flavored names. So, I mean, I think that's how we got started on the Fiestadas, isn't it? We were talking about paint names and how everyone was starting to get hungry. I think that's how it got started. So I'm going to move on to vanilla ice cream, which right now actually does sound kind of good. I'm going to say that's the influence of all the snow outside. And I'm moving to this style brush, and this is one of those Mod Podge miniature paint brushes that they sent me that I really like. So I'm moving down to this one. I know I've said in the past that when you're painting 3D miniatures, you don't want to move to this type of a nicer brush. But we have a good enough layering of paints as well as the wash on. So this brush I know is not going to get as beaten up because the layers have really been filled in nicely. It's also going to be a far lighter touch than like trying to get the paint on. So I'm not as worried about the brush. But I will say, if this is something you want to do not take your super duper nice brush, the $15 one you purchased, and use it on your 3D mini and then tear it up to pieces. I wouldn't recommend doing that. So I'm just going to do little feathery, no pun intended, little feathery strokes here to make it look more feather-like. And this is, you know, go gradually. Don't load the brush up too much because otherwise it's not gonna work out as you want it to. And again, just kind of playing this up. I'm not looking for full coverage. I'm looking for lighter streaks of the color to play around with this. And then this is also going to go into the face area as well, because the face I used, what color was that? It's not there right now. Oh, Hubs has been painting minis, so I think he took that color and it's over at his little painting area. I spelled it right. We have the name spelling debate going on, so I'm just going to pull this up onto the chin a little bit here and keep pulling this down, ha ha ha, and out. Come on, you got to play around with those puns. I love that you name the colors you use. Oh, I'm glad that's a helpful thing for you. I try and mention the colors as well. After the streams are done, I'll put them in the description so that those who are watching after the fact, they can take a look at those and see how it's going and what's happening with the paints. It's just, you know, a quicker and easier reference that way too. But while you're here, I do like to mention it. Yes, Alan is confirming the state of the brush when you're using them on 3D minis. You know, and again, for when you're first painting these, I always put on that Mod Podge and paint blend, which I find works beautifully to help start filling in some of those seams. It's just sort of the nature of the beast, at least of the style, speaking of which, at least the style plastic coil that we use. I think ours is PLA, so it's not like I can take the measures, some of the, like, which one is it? Because I'm not the one who does the 3D painting. I do the printing. I do the painting part. So whatever, I'm blanking right now, but the one where you can take acetone nail polish and basically just sort of smooth it out a little bit, this isn't that kind. So it's also making a weird clicking sound right now. I hope one of the cats didn't bump it. I keep checking it every so often, I'm sure. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just feathering it through here, and it's not going to be such a stark contrast once I start addressing the sides, but right now I'm really just focusing here before going further and out, because I want to build this up gradually. I don't want to turn it into a massively blown out, fully creamy. What's the average Owlbear fur ratio, Shannon asks? I don't know. I'm just going with what sort of works with the mini itself. WizKids Nolzur's mini, that's pretty much, looks mostly like feathers, and it gets furry more towards the hindquarter area. This one, we have the definitive crest here. So this is kind of, to me, more fur-like, and this is more feather-like. So I would suggest just really take a look at the mini and kind of see what the sculptor had in mind and use that as your cues and go from there. It really do. Oh yes, the mother Owlbear and cub, there's the phrasing I want, set from Dark Sword. They're just gorgeously adorable. I love them. They are cool. They're very cool. Dark Sword in general is totally awesome, to sound like, you know, totally 80s mode. So I would recommend going and checking them out too, if you're looking for some interesting miniatures and something different as well. just go back in here. I'm going to pull a little bit up the side here. Same on this side. And again, I'm just feathering this through. This is going to make a lot more sense, again, as I start blending this out together, but it's starting to give the effect that I want to get. And now I need to go to the face and start feathering out more. Let's see here. Rust-Oleum, primer and filler for cars, smooths out paint lines really well. Yes, but it can also fill in detail. So you need to be careful with how much you're putting of that onto your Mini. That is a little tip I'm going to give about those. And I did find that when I used that style of paint, a lot of detail got lost. So if you have something that's a finer detail print, hang on, the paintbrush has something at the tip of it. If you have a finer details type of print, I wouldn't use that, because that just, to me, it overfills. So that's why I like doing the blend with the, and there's other products out there you can buy too. Green Stuff has something, I believe, as well. Like I said in the past, I tend to go towards products that you can find readily and easily in your craft stores, because I definitely want to gear this towards people just getting started and learning how to do things. So again, I'm going in here and I'm also doing the feathering effect on the face with the lighter vanilla ice cream, as opposed to the color I cannot remember right now, coffee latte I want to say, but I think that's not right. Maybe it was vanilla ice cream, but because of the wash it's darker. That could be it too. Okay, so keep going with this, and I'm just going to be very, especially since I lined the eyes already, I'm going to be very careful going through here. And I'm drawing this out more into that brown zone to literally feather the colors into each other. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Like I said, there's way too much potential here right now for puns. And it helps to sort of hit those slightly higher areas too. I don't want to get close to the eyes, also because you want to make sure those eyes have some depth to them, so you can kind of see here how this is getting more feathered out as opposed to the stark brown to cream color tone. Sort of widening his face up a little bit is the plan there. And you will find every so often, I just had to rinse my brush off, craft paints do tend to dry a little bit faster, and you can put airbrush thinner in there. I've done that in the past too, but in this case I don't want this getting too watery and then bleeding on me, so I'm purposely keeping the paint a little bit thicker so I can control the wear of it better. Doing the same thing here like I did before, just dancing this out a little bit. I'm starting first where that lovely little mask is. But when I am going to gloss up the eyes, I'm going to use clear nail polish on the eyes to make it shiny and vivid. Because those owls, gosh, that's like the first thing I noticed with them, was just how bright and gorgeous those orange eyes they have are. Alright, so you can see how it's starting to feather out more. So now he doesn't look like he has so much of a mask as it's his face. His lovely little face. Jake from State Farm. That is a fun name for him, and we don't have a Jake monster. I looked. Although speaking of Jake and monsters, because of my DM for the Dawnbringers, the Forge of Fury, which was at that point was Sunless Citadel, because of him, the tutorial next week is going to show you how to make some gelatinous cubes as well as ice prisons. And I've had a gelatinous cube stuck in my head ever since we fought one in that game. So I was like, I'm going to make a gelatinous cube because that would be fun. So that's why I'm looking forward to that one coming out. I did finish the project part of it, and I'm working on the video editing at this point. So next Friday, check it out. I'll show you how to make a gelatinous cube as well as an ice prison, because it's two similar methods that go into it. Now, I'm not going to be doing this fine little sweeping detail everywhere on the Owlbear, because that's gonna get time consuming. But for this point, I do just want to do it little by little, because it makes it a lot easier to sort of play around with things. I do want to just bring this down a little bit more. Yeah, Owlbears have definitely picked up in popularity, John S. I agree. There's There's a love of them. I think a lot of it has to do with Dice Camera Action, because they have Waffles, the Owlbear. I think she's definitely factored into why they're picking back up in popularity. I want to bring back the flumps. Those little cutie pies. Those, I think they're neat. I've actually been not drawn, but I found them very appealing. And I was reading up on them, so yeah, I might have to bring some flumps into the factor when I am DMing. Hint, hint. Okay, so that gives me the crest going. I'm not going to, as I try and tuck in a little bit, I'm not going to worry about trying to get into the underbelly here, this area, because quite frankly, trying to do fine details under here, it's too tight of a space. And if someone's looking at my mini like this, they're really getting picky. So again, 3-foot rule here. I'm working with just what the focus is going to be mostly. So here we have the chest starting to get that crested look. I'm going to let that dry, and I'm also going to work on getting some more of the lighter colors pulled out into the wing area. Let me quickly look back to my picture. Let's see here. There we go. So you can see where I'm going with that, with the chest area. And then for the face, we just got that addressed. Like I said, it's a little bit dark around the eye area, which is why I only pulled a little bit out around the sides. And all right, so I do want to bring some more of that modeling back up and out. So again, sticking with those light colors, I'm going to rinse this brush. Let's see here. Yeah, they both came out looking pretty cool. They are both, not here though, they're upstairs so I can take pictures of them later. But really easy to pull together. I will say that once you get your dimensions figured out, the assembly of it's pretty cool. The techniques I'm going to show you on how to add some extra details to it, I think you're going to enjoy as well. So what I'm going to do here is I don't want to go to this vanilla ice cream. I'm going to go back to using the khaki. I'm just going to keep grinning at that word. I'm going to go back to using khaki. This is going to give me church giggles. And I'm going to use that again to sort of lighten up around this area, but not going too ham with it. I do want to try and get the two-tone factor going on, and then that pavement's going to come into play where everything gets darker at some points too. So going back to khaki, and I'm going to stipple my brush a little bit. I'm just going to go through and just very lightly, because I'm using a mucked up brush right now. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but I'm just stippling this because, I mean, this is flared out and beaten up. I'm just stippling this up and around to bring in that modeling again. Because if you look at the feathers, there's not really a set pattern to the color. It's more the blending of how these feathers work into each other. So I'm just using this really flared out brush to add in this texture to it, to give it more of that converging of the different colors it has going on. So I'm going to keep doing that around the sides. Yeah, those orange eyes are stunning on that owl. Like I said, that was what really just was like, okay, found the owl I want to use. Same thing here. I'm going to just be very careful though, because I don't want to get too much going. But I do want to get this modeling. And kind of the same thing like I did here. I'm not going to go too deep back because I want that shoulder to still have some pop to it. So you can see how that's got the colors kind of blending in with one another. Jello cubes don't work so well. Oh, too funny. There you go. You can make a Jello gelatinous monster, and your players can be M&Ms, or the other baddies can be M&Ms too. Then it's just like a dessert party. Ba-dum-bum. I'm here all hour, folks. It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Not the same as I'm here all night. Oh God, I could not be here all night. I'm exhausted. Didn't get to bed till late last night because I had to do laundry unexpectedly, thanks to we have an older cat and she's got these bouts of dementia. Let's just say she forgot where the litter box was last night, right after we tucked one of the kids in, so that was a fun discovery. But our washing machine has the lovely habit of going off kilter, so you have to stay up with it. Okay, that got a little bit more in there than I wanted. It's fixable. So, again, this is not a full coating. The cheek got a little overzealous on that one. That was my bad. But you can see it's blending in the colors more. Come on, focus. There we go. You can see you're still getting your browns popping through, which is what I want. So it looks feathery. Then you can mix the gummy bears at home. Oh, I like that we're sharing recipes in here. Yeah, that's the fun of it, people eating the, if you use the food products for your table minis, they eat them midway through the game. I've heard it where it's like people use them for baddies, and if you're the one to fall the baddie, like your PC is the one to kill off the baddie, that's where you get to eat that particular treat, is how I've heard of it being handled, which sounds like a lot of fun. Little tip though, contrary to what you might think, I wouldn't recommend doing that with kids because they get so excited and jacked up as it is. The extra sugar, oh my lord. That probably would not go over so well. Just saying. Okay, let's see here. I'm trying to think with that printer going to, it's like, what? Oh no, no, we are not installing anything right now, computer. Oh yeah, Matt, that was not fun. That was not fun at all last night. And I felt so bad because the little guy comes down the stairs and he goes, Mom, something happened in my bed. And of course, my first thought's like, what'd you do? And it's just, you know, she's an old cat. She's like 16, 17 years old. And she just kind of forgets where she is sometimes. She'll actually go around the house meowing. A little bit of this up on the forehead, but not as much because the forehead doesn't have nearly as much of that going on. Okay, so you can see he's kind of taking on a different look now. He's got more of the feathery effects going on. So I'll do a little bit more on this side. I will fix that cheek. That's going to be a quick and easy. If there were goblin molds. Ooh. Oh, that's a neat idea. The goblin molds. How can we make that happen? If anyone knows someone who can make molds of things, that would be neat. Just a little bit more here. Okay, and then I'm also going to just do a little bit here just to kind of blend the two colors together. It's going to be more like a dry brush. Alright, that pulls it together a little bit there and there. Right now I'm just dancing it around to see if there's anywhere else I want to put a little more. But you can see I'm staying away from the edge here because I want to keep those standing out more. Because I really do like that division. It's a fun thing to play around with. Okay, so there we go. We get that going, and that gets me prepped for bringing in more of that pavement now. Because remember, there are those streaks of black that we're doing as well. Oh, I like now how we're sharing our pet horror stories in the chat. Fellow pet owners, raise your hands for the crazy cleanups you've had to do. Oh, there you go, Sparky. Take a goblin mini and make a silicone mold of them. See, I've never made a mold before, so that's a new concept for me. All right, let me jump over again to the picture. Yeah, see, it's crazy when you look over and you're like, yeah, it really is that kind of a modeling. All right, I'm going to go to use the pavement now, and I'm going to put this detail in. So literally, this is like the one color, like I said, they're mostly food, but this one's pavement. So this does not bring up any ideas of getting hungry. Let's put it that way. Okay, check out Peter Brown's. I am going to take a look at that. So Nathan's saying, check out food grade silicone molds. Peter Brown does stuff like that. Interesting. Well, I think my fingers may do some wandering. Oops, grabbing the wrong brush. I think my fingers may do some wandering later and checking that out. I am going to jump down to a finer tip than the one I initially started with. So this one's a little bit smaller because I want to control this color more. It's a dark black, so. But yeah, I will have to take a look at that. Very comics. See, this is fun to hear what people have encountered in terms of like the whole food as part of the play game for NPCs, NPCs. All right, so here is where I'm putting in those dashes of the pavement now because that bird has it. Well, if Jeremy's doing it, then go and take a look if you're looking to make your own food molds or moles. Give it a look and see what Jeremy's up to. All right, so again, this is pavement, smaller brush, and I am blotting it slightly on my hand. Because again, when it comes to the darker colors, I don't want to go in too heavy-handed, if avoidable. And I'm just trying to add in these dashes. Oh, come on, camera, there we go. The dashes, like you see on the owl, which, there we go. So that's what I'm starting to do here, is just adding those little touches. And definitely a smaller brush helps. And it helps also to get the paint more towards the tip of the brush, especially if you want to start getting that teardrop shape. And again, if you can't hear me, I can always turn the microphone up a little bit because I'm not sure how that printer's translating into the background noise. And the problem is if I try to listen to it. Yeah, everyone has their own focus, which is kind of the nice thing about having the variety of crafting channels. Trying to get a better angle so you can see that. So you can see what I am up to. Yes, pavement. Because that just sounds so appetizing. Now, did anyone else get this crazy? We got pretty much like an ice storm. It wasn't so much snow as it was just a bunch of ice invading the weather. They were expecting more snow, but that was not the case for us. But it definitely seemed to make some major progress across the states, that's for sure. We have a PRUSA i3 Mach 2 3D printer. It's one of those things we got a couple years ago, and the hubs likes to play around with it. So we have that kind of playing out more. I'm going to start putting these little darker dashes through because it does carry through in other areas. I'm going to try and get it a little bit further up on the sides and just kind of play around with it. Is the name of the game with that. It does. It does sound like one of those old school printers. A lot of it's because it's a similar back and forth factor that you're hearing. But yeah, it's a bigger print he has going on. I'm trying to think of what it is he's printing. I think it's like a cavern wall and arch thing he found on Thingiverse, I want to say. It's something he's had his eye on printing out for a while, so that's what's going on there. Okay. Just bring these down a little bit here. Yeah, I'm not going to go too nuts on the underbelly, just because that's not a place you're going to see too much once it is on the table. But that starts getting the feathery chest that you see him going. And then don't forget there's also going to be white coming into play here, so I'm actually putting in more than probably what should be there in the long run, simply because I'd rather have more and be able to put the white over on top than to not put enough and then put the white on and then have to go back and do pavement again. So that's why there's a little bit more streaking than probably necessary, but better to have more of this going on so that when the white comes into play, you won't be going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, because that gets old really fast. All right, a couple more spots there. And then I'm also going to put it up on the forehead area. So that I'm going to call it feathered out for the chest. And then I'm going to go to the top of the head. Yeah, the ice storm is not so nice. That was fun hearing it pelting against the windows at night. Initially, the kids were supposed to have a delayed opening, but that got changed at 6 o'clock this morning. Probably rightfully so, though, if it was treacherous traveling. Right, so again, I'm just putting in some splotches of black here at the top of the head. It's more of a muted effect because of the darker coloring, but it helps make the crest that he has that look like ears but are not ears, at least not on the owl, make more sense. All right, I'm gonna go back to the photo again. Thank you, Christian, appreciate that. All right, back to my still so I can take a look. Like I said, this is what I'll do. I'll toggle back and forth a lot between the photo and look at the mini, then look at the photo, then look at the mini. And I want to try and capture that a little bit for those people who have been wondering. All right, so there's still these black bits pulled through, so I am going to go through and I'm going to focus them through and try and get a little bit going. I don't want to go too much, but little strips of it here and there. So we have more of those coming through now. They're also just, it's an interesting coloration. I like it. I love owlbears. But like I said, I'm biased. We have a cat who looks and acts like an owlbear sometimes, I swear. Floofy and adorable. There was someone who did a cute little sketch of 2 cub owlbears on Twitter a couple days ago, and I wanted to save it, but of course it was one of those things. I went to go and save it, and wouldn't you know, Twitter like danced past the tweet. I couldn't find it again, and I didn't notice who had posted it. So if you are on Twitter and you see that owlbear cub pair that I'm talking about, that would be... Is it possible to put a link to your printer later? I'm not quite sure what you mean for that one. Oh, like which printer we purchased? I could give you the more recent model of it. That would be a possibility, because there are now other versions out there, as opposed to what we originally got. This one's a couple years old, and trust me, with technology like this, it's better to get the more current version, you know, because they always work on improving a couple things here and there. A little bit, here we go. So you can see how I think they're called pinions, right? Just little bits through here and there. And it helps make the throat and the crest pull together. But yeah, it's a company where they send you the printer in pieces. Or you can opt to get it fully assembled, but basically from what I understand, they have... This is where it gets to be like an Inception thing. They have 3D printers printing out the pieces to put together other 3D printers. So it was a little project that my husband did with my older son. They put the printer together and then worked on getting the settings and everything like that going. And if you really are sincerely looking into getting into 3D printing, then do make sure to go and find 3D Printed Tabletop on YouTube, because he's got some really good guidance and tips and videos for everyone out there, so it's a little bit more accessible and understandable and helpful. I mean, that's definitely one of those channels I will be the first to recommend when it comes to people wanting to get into 3D printing. I'll recommend checking him out. So do be sure to go and do that. It was definitely a big help for us and a good source to get our settings on the printer going, to get it how we wanted, or how my husband wanted to have it all set up and going. Like I said, that's his baby, that's his pet project right there. I'm gonna just play around here. It's the rise of the machines. Like I said, it's kind of funny when you hear it being explained, but from what I've been told, that's basically how it works. It's the printer printing printers. Now it just sounds like Peter Piper picked a peck of printing printers. But you know what I mean. All right, I'm also gonna pull some of these along the shoulder blade area. But again, we're just getting those little feathers going. All right, let me take it to the third zone. Now what I'm doing here is I'm kind of playing with the edge of the feathers to get this portion to pop out more. So I'm taking that pavement, I'm just edging the feathers a little bit with the black as well, just to play off of it a little bit more. You can see how it makes it stand out. Do the same thing on this one. But yeah, I'll once I am done today, I will go in and I will do my best to find the compo link. Well, Danny's also a teacher. Keep that in mind. And this time of year, speaking as a former teacher, it's tough. It's a busy time of year. So he's probably doing his day job thing, rightfully so. I thought there was something that came out like a week ago, though. I could have sworn I saw it in my feed. The other thing that's happening too, so heads up on this one, is YouTube isn't exactly being good about notifications. So if you're finding there's a channel that you follow and you could have sworn they have a regular schedule but you're not seeing them as much, go back to the notification bell, hit the bell twice. So basically you undo it and do it again. Let's see here. Oh, hello, Paul John's Life. I see a pencil of a couple of owlbears from... That's probably it. I bet you that's it, Paul. If you can that at me at Twitter, that's at the Crafting Muse, I would very much appreciate it, because I think that's the print that I was looking at. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's too precious. If you don't mind, it would be appreciated. Doing the same thing here of just bringing the pavement down the front area to get the little streaks that they have of the black. And this is all just to sort of mimic the look of the owl's feathers on the owl part of the owlbear. There we go. I'll do a little bit more on this side too. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take it and do it along the edges here. So you can see, there's my sweet spot. So one thing I noticed, it has a harder time focusing on the 3D minis, I think because of the texture a little bit. But you can see how that's getting the feathery look going on with it. So I'm going to take this along the edge too for the wings, arms, still sticking with pavement. And that is just quickly touching the edges here. Kind of like what I did with the crest up there, but now I'm doing it to the feathers along the elbows and arms, forearms. Well, he only has 2 arms, but it's going on the forearm of the arms. Just quickly little dabbing right there. You hear the walking around, it's one of the kids is moving and grooving. Okay, so that gives you the idea of where I've been going with this one. And a little bit more right there. Alright, so this is getting the owl to the owlbear. Who are you? Who? Alright. Hello, cutie. Now I think what I'm going to do is just a little bit, because this got a little bit too much, I'm just going to lightly take some pavement and just, there we go, break that up a little bit so it's not such a thick patch. There we go. That's better. Thank you very much, Paul John's Life. Appreciate you doing that for me. Yeah, the reason why I have pavement always on hand is because it's one of these super dark grays without it being black. And as I've said before in the past, I'm not one to go for pure black if I can help it. Just because there's really nothing in nature that's a true pure black. It's just the way it works. So if you want a recommended color to have on hand in my book, definitely pavement. I use it so much, both with miniatures and terrain painting. Just wanted to find a couple of these a little bit more. that, I'll even get like the bigger bottle and fill up the smaller bottle with the big bottle, because that's how much I'll go through it. Like, we still have the same bottle of black that we got about almost 2 years ago now, I want to say. But that's because I don't use the black as much as I use the pavement. Alright, so I'm liking how I have the black streaks going on. Now I'm going to go into bringing out the little bit of the white. Well, it's almost white. It is, oh, pardon. It is antique white. I'm saying white, but it's not pure white. Again, I don't want to get into pure white here, but I definitely want a lighter tone than the vanilla ice cream that I had going on. Using the same brush, rinse that off. I'll go back in and using Apple Barrel's Antique White. I'm going to start going in and giving those lighter colors. And I'll switch over so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see how there's those streaks of white that now happen. So I'm going to be going in with this and putting that coloring in as well. Again, with a finer brush, because you can see there's the, I'm just wiggling everything right now, but you're not seeing it. So you're going to see that that's coming through as well, and that's another color I want to get. And then once I finish that, what I'm doing is I'm going to go back in, dot the eyes so we get some glint to them, and then also do like those extra little details just to kind of make a couple things pop, like giving the beak a little bit of highlighting, because with the pavement it does go to a darker tone. This is the antique white, yes, yes. And that I want to kind of highlight a little bit more so you get the curvature better. 10-pin and bear, bulb. Jeez. Now we're going into bowling puns. That was not a direction I foresaw. I can just imagine that the Owlbear are getting ready to do that. Shake the dogs when they get wet. Aw. It is funny how we sort of add in these little, not quirks, but these more, I guess, pet-like qualities to some of the creatures. And there's definitely creatures people lock onto a little more. It's like the Owlbear's one. I've seen a lot of drakes getting the people treating them like cat kind of love, and just things like that. So it's always fun to see how we put our own interpretations as to what these creatures are like. And it varies from person to person. Dot the eyes and cross the beak. Well, oh god, towel. Now we're really having fun. The next pun that came up was Owlbear. Yeah, that would not be fun. Alright, so I'm going to go in and just kind of dance this color in here. Again, I don't want to go too crazy, but it's almost there. Actually, what I'm kind of doing is I'm sort of positioning these little dashes between where I had more of the black dashes going in. So that's carrying up and through. It's actually probably a good thing that we're not printing something circular, because that gets to be a monotonous. That's a fun one to listen to. Not really. There we go. I'm trying to get it so you can see this. That or the woo, which if you watch my tutorials, you'll see me make that noise every so often when the printer's going like crazy. And there were some more obvious streaks of this up by the head. The trick really is making sure it's not completely uniform. So because I don't want this to be too light, I'm just gonna add a few little dashes here. Nothing too nuts, but just to kind of give a little bit to the head crest as well. Is that a Batman theme? It does sound like it sometimes. I'll also take it there. But Okay, I just went to my own world. Sorry. Don't forget, she's been home alone with kids 2 days in a row with snow that they can't play in. Alright, going to do some more this side. And bring the antique white over. But now he's a feathery boy. And really, I'm keeping these white more up towards the crest area for the antique white bits that are going in. Jake from State Farm, Owlbear. Do want to get a little bit in here. There we go. As you can see, I'm just dancing it along. Get the other side here through the shoulder. And again, because I'm going so lightly on this, it's really not chewing up the brush like can happen sometimes with the 3D prints. It's basically just creating like little individual feather streaks. Like so. Like so. Now what do we have in Robin? How did we get to Owlbear? Weren't we talking about Owl? Oh, that's right, Batman. It's like Robin. Batman and Owlbear. Okay. That's where we're going. That's where we went. Ooh, there we go. Turn it a little bit so you can see. Just gonna do a couple more streaks on this side, look at the other side and make sure I have a balance going. But that's getting to about where I want this to be for a more feathery look here. I love his eyes. Face. Yeah, just gonna put a couple more streaks. Nope, might help to get more paint on the brush. A couple more through here. And then I think we'll call it on doing the vanilla ice cream dashes. Or not, is it vanilla? No, antique white, take it back, antique. Alright, take care, Vincent, thanks for jumping in. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna call this, because I had like one extra little dash in. I'm gonna call this enough for the antique white now. But that shows you sort of the division of where I was going with this. We have the, because if you look at the owl itself, let me go back to the still. So if you look at the owl itself, you can see that its wings definitely have darker tones than what it has going on underneath, and I wanted to try and nod to that, which is why the back end is definitely more in those taupes and khakis and creams, whereas the front I definitely played around more with the darker tones, because that was definitely something I wanted to keep going and processing through for this particular look on the Owlbear. So the last thing I'm going to do with this vanilla ice cream is I am going to go back to the feathers right here and just give them quick little dashes of highlight there, just to kind of bring them out more. And I'm going to take this literally along the edge here, so that way the feathers kind of have more of a chance to stand out. There you go. Do this on the other side. Let's see here. Christian says, this makes me want to paint more monsters. See, it's funny, I tend to paint more monsters than humanoids, but I think that might be just the nature of our games, where we end up encountering more creatures than we do people. Though I take it back that there will be more humanoids happening on these streams as I start getting minis ready for D&D in a castle, because I am going to bring some limited terrain and miniatures with me for the game. I thought it'd be fun. But I thought it'd also be nice to paint them on the live streams too, so people can see some of the NPCs I've created. And Miguel actually helped me out with 2 of them. I can't wait for you guys to see them. Not sure if they're here yet because of all the weather we've been getting, if the delivery is going to work out or not. Actually, now that I did that, let me just quickly get those 2 there. But yeah, so Miguel created a couple of NPCs for me because they're so specific and they're just sort of my own design, that he created the 3D prints, and they came out looking really cool. So I'm excited for that. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take a little bit of this vanilla ice cream. I'm going to just run it along the underside of that crest area, right through here. And then I want to definitely make sure I get this beak highlighted up. Now this I want to be very light. Ooh, get it back in frame. Dweep. Lightly going through here and just accenting that edge a little bit, as you can see. Do the same to the other side. Check to make sure you can still see what I'm doing. And again, just feathering. Oh, thank you very much, Matt. I just saw your comment there. God, you guys are having too much fun with the combinations. Owlbear, bat bear, cowl bear. Oh, that means he needs like a sweater of some sort, right? Okay, now I want to get this beak brought out, but I don't want to do... I'm going to go to Graphite Gray for this. So using CraftSmart's Graphite Gray, because that's one that has a bit of a warmer tone to it. Because you can have grays that are cool tones and dark, or warm tones. And I want a warm tone in this case because of all the browns I've been using. If I use a bluish gray, it's gonna look funky. So Graphite I find is a little bit of a, ooh, help still. There we go. A little bit of a warmer gray. So I shouldn't run into the dichotomy of a warm and cool put together. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to boop his nose. Well, not really boop his nose, but I want to bring out curvature of the beak a little bit more. So I'm going to add this line of graphite down the top of the beak, and that just gives it a little bit more, if I can find the, there you go. So you can see, looking at it from above, it gives it a little bit more of a pop of color there. And then I'm also going to, there is a mouth divide, which it's really hard to get the camera to pick up. And I'm also going to do that same kind of approach of putting a very thin line along where the beak has that division. So I'm going to put this on the upper beak area, which again, it's so small. I don't know if the camera's picking up that one. So when I take the finished pictures, you'll see what I'm talking about, but it helps to put it on the upper portion of the beak. So you have the division between the upper beak and the lower beak. It's kind of like what I just did up here, but it's not as drastic of a difference because you don't want it to look like, you don't want it to look like it got its lips badly lined. Okay, so that gives his beak a little bit more, oh there you go, you can kind of see what I was doing there. Gives it more of the definition. Now really all I have left to do is put the little white dots onto the eyes and then gloss it over, and then I'll do the base. So now I'll put the pavement and the graphite away. And in this case, I do want white. So let me get my white out. Well, that would be funny, white out. Yeah, the humanoids, John S. is saying, monsters tend to be easier simply because humanoids have more small details to them. So yeah, that's definitely an argument that there's a little bit more going on. Oh, I'm glad the techniques have been helpful for you even with terrain, Nathan. It's good to hear. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my daughter, not my daughter. I only have sons, but this is a manicure toolkit tool that I really put to good use. I like it especially for eyes. It helps it keep it more controlled because the metal is a static device. It's not something that's going to shift on you. So I do want to give him his little glint. So let me go into the white. And I'm going to do a practice dot just to see. Yeah, that's a good amount. So I'm just going to do a little white dot. Of course, now I'm saying this, I'm trying to get it in camera. Good angle for me. Hider clock. Hold on. Hold on. I took too long positioning. The paint is drying on me. Tap. So now he's got his little white dot. And of course the fun part is you don't want them to go wall-eyed Wally on you. So I want to try and get this so it's sort of a comparable zone on the other eye as well. Which, why are you not dotting? There we go. Dot, dot. So you can see upside down, you can see. So we're gonna let those dry. Oh, but actually I need to fix a little something. The one dot's straight a little bit, so I need to go back to my pavement and fix where the white kind of went a little too far. It's a nice thing about paint. You can go back in and do a little touch up. So right along here, it just got a little bit too high up. There we go. Now I'm gonna do a little fixing here. This is why it always helps to, like I said, I got ahead of myself with lining the eyes. There we are. Normally I would have saved that for the end, but I got a little overeager. Hello, Jedi Jim. Just slightly late. Just slightly. Not too bad. Okay, so now I'm going to bring out that moss stuff so I can get the base touched. Oh, that's the other thing I meant to do. The claws. I knew I was forgetting. Oh, wait, no. No, I'm not forgetting because I want to do the base technique first before going back and fine-tuning the claws. That's what it is. What is this dot tool? It is basically something you find in a manicure kit. So you can make tiny little finite dots on your nails as well as on your minis, which I just so happen to have on hand. But Amazon has them for like, I want to say like 10 bucks. And it should be in my Amazon shop on my website, which is just thecraftingmuse.com. If you check out the Amazon store, I'm pretty sure I have the link to the kit that I own. So these are the fun little paints that do effects from Folk Art that Plaid sent me. So you start first with the, you have to shake them up really well. You start first with the dark green and then you go back in with the light green. I believe Wylock and Jeremy both did videos on this one, so I'm not gonna sit here and do a full tutorial, but I did want to put this to use on the base because I liked the way these come out. And if you take a look, there's a texture in the paint, which when you scoop up, it's kind of like those Vallejo effects, but they're thinner. They're not as thick. It's not as paste-like, and it's easier to use not directly out of the bottle in terms of like trying to squirt it, but it helps to take the bottle cap off. So it basically just lumps on, and this is what gives you sort of the mossy look. So I'm just going to go through and just kind of glob it on. And I go in heavy-handed with the darker green, and then I'll go in with a lighter green and touch it into just a couple of little random areas. And then once this dries, what I do is I go in with a dark green wash, and it gives it this really neat earthy moss ground texture, which I really like the look of. I've done it on my blight minis, not twig blights. That's what it is. And I really like the way the end result came out for those. So what I'll do is I'll take some from the cap and then I shake it up again, and I'll pull more off the cap. Castle you're working on is based on, Nathan's giving us some information. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that technique helped you with your castle details. So again, I'm going to go through and just put some more of this on. Now there is a little bit of a wateriness to this, so I'm being careful about how close I'm getting to the owlbear and his feet, because it will bleed a little bit. So I'm just tucking in the texture very carefully now, especially because it gets a little tight back in this zone. And it does help having that Vallejo texture paint from before because it grips the textures from this one and helps to raise them up a little bit. Right now I gotta go between the legs and just very carefully sort of nudge it into place. That's where it helps to have the brush slightly loaded up. Look at the bear butt. And almost done with this. Okay, so this is the darker green, which right now translates as a very sort of like a mid-tone green, and the lighter green I will put on, and you actually do this while the other is still damp or wet because you want these colors to blend a little bit. So I'm going to rinse my brush just a little bit, not too crazy mode, but now I'm going to move on to the lighter green and add in those little dots as well. Christian, thank you for jumping in. It was good to see you. Have a great day. And you can see this is definitely a lighter, it's almost like a taupish green. And I don't put as much of this one in because you really don't need to, but this is sort of like the highlight, or you know how some mosses have that suede look to it. This kind of helps create that to it. So I'll go back in, and because these paints are runny, just sort of dab it. Dab it. Yes, I went there. I still don't quite get the whole dabbing thing. I will admit that. I think it's more because I see the kids doing it at school and they just randomly do it. It's like, what? So I'm just going through and I'm dotting this around. Getting between the leg area is always fun. And then once this dries, and this maybe about an hour or so it'll be totally dry, then I'll go in, I'm going to grab the wash so you can see what wash I go and put on for this. So that this is your end result here. So you can see how it's more of that mottled look here. So then once this dries, what I use is this Anthonian camo shade from Citadel. It does a great job. It's a darker green and it just sort of gives it more of that really mossy look, and it brings out the upper texture and the lower texture at the same time. So once that base dries, I will go back in and I'll put that on. But that pretty much takes care of the base for me. And then we just have a nice little Owlbear. And then again, once this dries too, I'm just going to go around, and sometimes what I'll do with my minis, I'll do a strip of black just around the edge of the bases. So once this is all dried and washed and blah, 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 I'll go back in with the black and just touch that up. But we have the back looking bear-like like I wanted, and the front looking owl-like I wanted. And now I'm just going to, I'm actually going to let things dry. But what I normally will do for the eye gloss is I'll use my nail polish. Now this is an old bit of nail polish, and because the eyes are orange, I'm okay with using this one. Some nail polish will turn yellow on you if you're not careful. So this one I'm okay using because the eyes are orange, but I'll put a couple dots of this on, but if you put it on too soon, it can make things bleed a little bit, and I don't want to chance it with just having done the white dots on the eyes. But this fellow is at a point where I'm pretty happy with how he's looking. Of course, because there's so many light colors now, the lights are playing around with it, but it's got the featheriness that I wanted, and it's got the berryness in the back, and those orange eyes, which I love. So he's gonna dry. He's gonna get one more round of whatnot in terms of taking care of the base with the wash, and then I'll take some pictures and I'll make sure that I share them here on the community tab on YouTube, as well as on Twitter and on Facebook and everything like that. So thank you to everyone who came out. Thanks for putting up with the fun little printer effects in the background, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. And if you are where it is cold and snowy, please be careful if you're traveling too. You know, be safe. So next week, oh, that's a good point. I don't know what I'm going to paint next week. I'll figure that one out, and I will let everyone know also on the different social media as to what the plan is for next week in terms of which mini I'm going to paint. Maybe I'll start grabbing something that, oh, I know what I could do. All right, so I'll grab something that I can start using for my game over at the castle. So thank you, everyone. As always, it is great to see you all in the chat and interacting and doing your fun little chats like you do. And I will talk to you all later and see you next week. Take care. Bye.